Good morning. Good morning to the Daily Huddle family. Today is Tuesday, August the 6th, and I'm here with my co-host, Catherine Sable. And it's every Tuesday that we talk all things communication and relationships. And Catherine and I are so passionate about this because we believe that more effective communication builds better relationships, and better relationships builds better families, better communities, and better business. Today, we are joined with a guest, and her name is Coach Doris Shannon. She has a fascinating background and some really empowering information to share. So, before I turn it over to Doris, I want to tell you just a little bit about her. She spent over 30 years in human resources, and she was a very successful HR executive. She experienced some brain aneurysms that caused her to leave this world and become a coach. But she did not really discover her purpose until she learned personally that she could heal her body with her mind. This led to the discovery of her true purpose. So she wanted to learn more about the untapped potential of the mind. Doris today is a personal consciousness coach who helps people awaken their undiscovered potential. She says that once we understand the behavior of the mind, we can safely and effectively transform it. In other words, we can all learn ways to influence the voices in our head. That is all you, Catherine. Welcome, Coach Doris. We are so glad to have you.
Hello.
So before we dig into what you are doing for people, which I mean, we might throw the word transformation around, but you truly help people transform the way they navigate life. I mean, that's huge. But I don't want to jump to that. I want you to share a little bit more about your background and what led you to this powerful work.
Well, let me tell you my story of personal consciousness. In the first 10 years of my 24 years of coaching, I coach people to success from the classroom to the boardroom and even into their retirement. And I use traditional coaching methods that I learned at the CTI Institute out of California. But I noticed that my clients' success or their lack of success was rarely because of their knowledge or their skills. It was typically because of what their mind was telling them, all
Mm.
those voices in their head. And that's why I decided I wanted to learn how to coach people from the inside out versus the traditional methods, because that internal dialogue is really more powerful than most people know. It affects our happiness, the choices we make in life, and all of our relationship. Now, although my services can support everyone, my audience has turned out to be successful women near and over 40. And I think they're attracted to me because I know their pain. I've experienced what they've experienced going through school and their careers and romantic relationships, and now into my retirement.
Mhm.
But unlike a doctor or a therapist, my goal is not to diagnose or prescribe, it's to arm people with really proven tools that they can begin to use to update their mind's behavior, self-facilitate what's not working, and influence how their mind talks to them.
Mhm.
I
Um,
found this to be, I mean, I found it to be simple to do, but it's not easy because once you're an adult, you've had decades of beliefs about your mind's power and what you can and cannot do.
right. Conditioning, so to speak, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So, I mean, tell us about what took place for you personally. Like, what were you able to learn that your mind could do for you? What changed?
Well, I learned about the power of my mind. It was about 25 years ago, and when I walked into my neurosurgeon's office. And he walked in and showed me some brain scans. And he said, Doris, you need another brain surgery. And I had already had two miraculous recoveries from aneurysms, brain aneurysms.
Mhm.
So I didn't believe I had another miracle coming in my life. So all I could say was, hell no, I'm not going to have another brain surgery.
Mhm.
Now, he spent the rest of my appointment trying to convince me how important it was because I had built up fluid between my brain and my skull from the first two surgeries. But I continued to say, no, I was just afraid. And finally, he said, let me give you 30 days to think it over and come back for another consultation.
Okay.
And then when I returned to the rehab center that he had placed me in, I had a cognitive therapist.
Hmm.
And when I told her what my situation was, she said, Doris, I think I can help you. I can help you with the methodology that I use. And it's really a recovery visualization of is what it was. It's similar to what athletes use to create a winning mindset. And I create my own visualization, but she told me how. And she said to repeat it every day, all day for 30 days. So 30 days later, I'm sitting again in my neurosurgeon's office, and he walks in waving new brain scans, shouting, what did you do? It's all gone. And I'm going, what? So I told him the story of my visualization process, and all he could say is, well, next time include me in your visualization. I go, okay, I'll do that.
Cool.
I now, yeah, I now know that I learned what's now called the new field of medicine called psychoneuroimmunology, and it's used in recoveries around the world for cancer and stroke victims, really visualizing your recovery and what's going on in your body. I really learned to coach really other people who were recovering from aneurysm surgeries.
Hmm.
But I knew there was more that I could teach that could help people on a day-to-day basis manage their mind's behavior. And that began my journey.
Okay. Wow. So you had the two brain surgeries, and then
Yeah.
the surgeon agreed you never needed another one.
Yes. Yes, the fluid was all gone. Yes.
Okay. And your
Like I said,
belief.
I had three miracles.
Okay. Well, if you're a cat, you have six more. You have six more lives. So keep on keeping on. So take us now into a little bit into that journey. So once you realize that I mean, literally healed your own brain, then you learned to help other people with this. Did you take courses? Did you deepen your practice? And do you still practice it today?
Absolutely. I really first learned about personal consciousness coaching as I was being trained to be a true purpose coach
Okay.
to help people find their purpose. And what I learned from the developer of this methodology was that most people can't define their purpose because our unconscious mind doesn't know what our purpose is. It really takes a connection with your source to find your purpose.
Okay.
But your mind can stop you from learning your purpose because it's going, I don't know what if your mind doesn't know what you're trying to do or is something new it fear you will fail at, it will react to it. And so it will stop us from learning our purpose. So I had in that class my first facilitated voice dialogue session, the facilitated conversation with my mind
Mhm.
to really create conditions by which my mind would allow me to update my purpose. Because I believe that I had already found the basic purpose, but I wanted to update it. And I don't think we learn all of our purpose at one time. I think it can come to us over our lifetime.
Do we have
And so
power over it, or do you think it's just something somehow just within us?
it's how our mind is designed. It's designed to protect and serve us. So these energies that develop in our mind that are our thoughts really have a purpose. And when you begin to understand their purpose, you can update that purpose because some of these purposes become permanent, they're embedded,
Mhm. Can
and
you
they
give
don't
some
update.
examples? Because I'm having trouble wrapping my brain around this. So I guess what I'm hearing you say is that somehow we are pre-wired for a purpose. Or are you saying that it's certainly based a lot on life experiences?
Well, some people believe we're pre-wired for our purpose.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is that our subconscious mind or our unconscious mind doesn't know what that purpose is.
Okay.
Therefore, it will react to you trying to do something that it doesn't understand and it believes you will fail. Our mind is protecting us from failure.
Mm-hmm.
And when it doesn't know what you're trying to do, it will react. That new job, that new career, getting married, first child, all of those things create a reaction in your mind because it doesn't know we can be successful at those things.
Okay. And so you're saying that fear is standing in the way of this.
Yes, your mind's fear of failure is standing in the way of a lot of what we cannot do.
Okay.
Sounds like
But
you're
once
also
you
talking
have
about like,
identified those energies and begin to have conversations with them, you can update those energies and change how they talk to you.
it sounds like you're talking about subconscious programming. That our subconscious
I,
is
I,
programmed.
I would say that, yes, I would say that is a good description.
Fascinating. I'm really curious, Doris, how do you have a conversation, a facilitated conversation with your own mind?
Well, I have a 6-step process that I teach in my course called Conversations with Your Mind.
Mhm.
And I first facilitate your first conversation. But I share the steps that I'm taking you through, and there's steps that we can do on our own. So people can begin to have their own conversations with their mind and
Hmm.
change the behavior versus coming back to me for every facilitation. There are probably hundreds of voice dialogue facilitators trained in the world by the two psychologists that developed this methodology. So, yeah, I'm not the only person that can help people do this, but I'm
Fascinating.
the only one that's really, really focused on giving people the skills, the knowledge, and the steps to do it themselves.
Hmm. That is fascinating to me.
It sure is. Interestingly, I haven't done much therapy in my lifetime, but I did go to a therapist for about, I don't know, 6 months. It wasn't that long ago.
Okay.
And the only reason I went to her is that I found that I was kind of berating myself in my head.
Yes.
At the end of the day, I never had been enough for the people I love. I hadn't worked enough. I hadn't accomplished enough. And it was on loop in my head. And
Yes.
what this therapist told me to do,
What?
stop it. Shit you not. That's what she told me. So I guess I'm sitting here thinking, what kind of person needs your work? I guess a person like me.
Well, a very normal people, I'm not a therapist because a
I
therapist can
know.
help you when you can't control it, or
Okay.
it's but I help people really who feel I can manage this with a methodology that I can use.
Okay. All right. So give us some people that aren't like me. Like give us a classic success story of a client. This was the challenge. They worked with Doris, and then this is the outcome.
Okay. Well, there's really nothing, no, I mean, there's no classic, there's no one. Everybody is totally different, and I learn a lot from every client. I
Okay.
remember the client that shared with me that during her early years when she was in an elementary school,
Mm-hmm.
she was traumatized by what I call bullying. You see, the younger we are and more vulnerable we are, when this happened, when that bullying starts, it really can traumatize us permanently.
Mm-hmm.
And it was happening in school, and it was really both embarrassing and painful because other children were hearing the taunts. Now, no one in the school took any action, and the parents had no idea how to help their child. And it never stopped until she grew taller and bigger than other children's. And she began to develop within herself an unconscious energy that she now calls her BITCH.
Bring it.
We, we all have one. And one day I was having a voice dialogue session with her, helping her dialogue with an entirely different energy. and we were interrupted. Our conversation was interrupted by a voice that came out of her that was stronger and more aggressive. Now, I was surprised, but quickly I remembered that I had learned from my voice dialogue teachers that when this happens, you stop and you facilitate a conversation with that protective, controlling energy that has shown up in the client. So the client can learn what that energy is fearful of. So I began to facilitate a conversation with the energy that interrupted us. And it told her what it was trying to protect her from. And that client decided not to have a conversation with the energy she had come to me to talk to, because her mind told her why it felt that one energy felt. We have these protective energies. The energies are not one energy. They all have a different history, a different purpose, and they even can create different medical conditions in us. I've experienced that as well. So this particular energy was trying to protect her from something it felt she would fail at. And she finally agreed. Because I don't diagnose or prescribe, I just connect people with their own wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that was the best choice for her. And that's what I let her do.
So you just said something I think bears repeating. You don't diagnose or prescribe, you connect people with their own wisdom.
Yes.
That is really, I think, quite profound. And who could be more in touch with our own wisdom, which is now I'm understanding why you call it personal consciousness, than each of us and our collective experiences, which are so very unique from anyone else's. And
Absolutely.
I'm also hearing from you something that's really encouraging. Oftentimes when I've talked to just even, casually with therapists or coaches, I believe that they tend to almost kind of profile people and make these assumptions. And it sounds like you are the opposite of that, that you
Well,
don't
I
make
think that's pretty
assumptions.
normal. It's pretty normal for people to make assumptions about
Sure.
others.
Mhm.
But I would say one of my top three values is independence.
Okay.
So I really need to make people independent and able to manage their own issues.
Mhm.
And coactive coaching, as we all know, right, Catherine,
That's right.
teaches you how to partner with your client, not train them, counsel them.
Okay. Tell me a little bit more about what you had hoped to share today that we're maybe not getting to, because I could take this conversation in so many directions, and I'm sure Catherine has more questions too. But um, is there something more about what you're doing for folks um, that you want to share from your heart?
Well, I have designed personal consciousness coaching into really learning bundles.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I talked to you about conversation with your mind. It may be too short, but I'm starting off with just 3 sessions because people have a short attention span. And so I thought if I could have just 3 sessions, I could get them interested and then they could begin to learn more.
Mm-hmm.
But these 3 sessions teach them about the research, which to me is important to understand so you know how this methodology called voice dialogue was developed. And it was 2 psychologists who spent 35 years traveling around the world confirming that their methodology works for everybody.
Okay.
And but I like to teach it in group sessions. The first 2 sessions of conversation with the mind are group sessions where you learn about the research and you meet the people who did the research. And then you learn about the simple methodologies. There's more than one way to do this. But the third session is a private facilitated voice dialogue session where I teach them the 6 methods, the
Mm,
6 steps of having a conversation with your mind.
okay.
There are books out there on it, but the books talk about writing the story your mind is telling you,
Mhm.
writing it down. But I found that my mind talks so fast, I can never get it all written down. But if I use Zoom to record the conversation with my mind, I've got a record of it and I can record what my mind is saying versus trying to handwrite it.
Okay.
So I take them through all that, and then the last step, which is really important, is to measure. Because you sometimes I don't recognize when my mind has stopped telling me something that no longer works. Because our mind is so subtle, we just start to believe something. We don't realize our mind has told us that. But you can measure, how do I feel about it today versus when I went through that class. So 6 weeks after the class, I find out how the person is feeling.
Oh,
Are they, yeah, yeah. So
and
the measurement is really important, and because you don't know that your mind has stopped telling you something until you go, oh, it's gone.
yeah, that sounds like freedom to me. So tell me if I have this right, and then I want to hear what Catherine was bubbling up for her.
Okay.
Someone might consider a personal consciousness coach if they what? Fill in the blank.
If the voices in their head are limiting them.
Okay, that sounds perfectly acceptable to me. Okay. What you think, Catherine?
I'm totally intrigued. I think it's fascinating. And I guess I'm curious, do you really see, because I'm like always a little doubtful, like, do you really see that people break through the barriers of the limitations that their mind have put on them?
Absolutely. I'm as fascinated as you are that really how powerful this is. Can I tell you a story about another methodology that I use called clearing beliefs? Do you have time for this one?
You do.
It was 2014, and another coach, Coach Betty, who lived in another country, and we were all online in a class together, and we were all learning how to clear our clients' limiting beliefs. And this is now a CTI certified process. But the teacher, the developer of this methodology, found that you can influence other people's minds without experiencing it yourself. So we both were going to facilitate clearing a belief of each other. But the belief she had was that her baby sister at birth had stolen her father's attention away from her. I mean,
Okay.
a lot of children, she was just a toddler and she was traumatized by this new baby sister. But she grew up believing that her sister consciously or purposely always stole her father's attention away from her. This became an embedded belief that other women stole my father's attention away. And what we do is we create an energy within us, a belief that really can become permanent. And this is what's happened to her. And she found that she was near 50 when I was coaching her, that she had never had an effective romantic relationship because she always believed some other woman was stealing the attention away from the person she was with.
Fascinating.
It typically takes multiple sessions to clear some of the beliefs, but in one session, we cleared that belief. Now I know that it was clear because she called me and emailed me about 6 months later, and she said, "I now have a successful relationship, but that I think has the potential of becoming permanent." And I
Wow.
went, "What?" But every client have had has cleared the belief that they had that was limiting them.
Oh,
Uh, Have you heard of this, Catherine?
I haven't.
To
Not, I mean, I understand clearing beliefs, but I haven't heard of a certified process to do it.
Does the clearing of the belief take me to the understanding of the clearing of the belief and the discovery of the purpose? Like, do you have to clear the beliefs before you can discover the purpose?
No, these are different methodologies.
Okay.
Finding your
Like,
purpose is one.
Okay.
Voice dialogue is another. Clearing beliefs is a third.
Oh, okay. Thank
I'm,
you.
I'm, I'm sorry if I've confused you with
No, I thought
the
they were
story.
all interconnected. No, I understand they were different, but I thought somehow they were connected, but you're saying not necessarily.
No, these are the different powers of our mind. It's that fascinating, really.
Mm.
And I'm sure there's other methodology that I haven't learned yet.
Yeah.
I would imagine though it'd be hard to live out your passion or your purpose if you've got limiting beliefs that are, in there preventing you from being able to do that. So in some ways, I'm sure that
Absolutely.
they're all interconnected.
I definitely
Yes.
want others to have a time to ask a question. So if anybody has questions, please put a hand up. But while we're waiting for that, I want to hear, what is your purpose, Doris?
Well, my purpose is to help people become all they came here to be.
Hmm.
That makes me want to dance. I love that. Fantastic.
And,
Wow.
and yeah, that's, and if I can just inspire them to take one or two steps, that's all I can hope for in most cases.
To
Because
inspire
actually, once you
people
know
to
you
say it one more time. I loved it.
inspire people to become all they came here to be, to know what that is,
Yeah.
and
You know,
and clear anything that's stopping them. Yes.
yeah. I think you know that I teach storytelling, and one of the
Yes.
presentation skills, and one of the things that I teach, this is why I keep asking you to repeat things, is that we tend to say things in different ways, and then we can walk away not remembering. But you have left us with some couple really powerful phrases, and I want people to be able to take those with them when our conversation is over. It looks like Florence has a question. Good morning,
It's
Florence.
not, good morning, Grand Rising. It's not a question. However, my, I discovered that my limiting belief in the area of money and abundance and all of that was that I was not worthy. And I was not worthy of any of it. And I really identify with what she's talking about. Because when I realized that it had a connection to do with, oh, I didn't feel loved by my mom, I didn't feel like I maybe I was worthy of anything else, because if my mom didn't love me, then maybe no one else could love me. And when I found that, I realized I broke that thing of being unworthy, and suddenly all the abundance started flowing in every area of my life, not only in the area of money.
What do you say to that?
Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. And
Oh,
that's very common. I think I had that belief at one time as well.
mhm.
That's a common belief.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for that, Florence. Do you have any
That's
last words for us? I have to tell you, Florence, I don't know if you're looking at the screen, but when you shared that, Doris, just like a light started beaming from her. So that was beautiful. So
Yes, it's really clear to me right now. I found my purpose. I found why I'm here, and it's very similar to hers, because I am here to let people know that they can become all that they came to be. They have the power within them to become all that they came to be, all that they said yes to. They made a choice to come, and they said yes, and I want them to remember why they said yes and to fulfill that yes.
beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Florence. I think you really put a bow on this. Any last comments, Doris? And then Catherine, if you have any, then I will close us out.
Well, thank you. I see that you gave people my email address.
Yes.
I'd love to hear from you and really connect you with my upcoming course. I'm offering it again in October, Conversations with Your Mind.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much. It
Thank you.
sounds really intriguing. Do you have any last words for us, Coach Catherine, before I close us out?
I just want to thank you for the work that you're doing. This just sounds fantastic. And I think if we can get people closer to their purpose, the world is a better place.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. I definitely feel called to close out with our tenets for the daily huddle. And the first of those, Coach Doris, is love. And you showed up here certainly exuding love. I don't know the name of this book. My son has read it several times. And he says there's really only two emotions. One is fear, which you reference, and the opposite of that is love. So let's dispel fear with love. And then another tenet of ours is to give. And we thank you for doing that today, to give generously and freely of your talents and your time and your heart and your vulnerability. So we want to encourage you all to give. And don't forget to not take yourself too seriously. Throw that head back and let laughter just unleash and let those endorphins flow. And then certainly remember to get your rest, eat more plants, stress less, and finally, do not forget to get up off that booty and move that body. Thank you all for being here on the Daily Huddle. Catherine and I will see you next Tuesday where we talk communication and relationships. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you. Have a great
Stay
week.
from Debbie.
Thank you so much.